Welcome to Tea with Tanya. I'm your host, Tanya Ambrose, an average millennial navigating life as a maternal health professional, nonprofit founder, and grad student. Join me in the tea tasting room where we spill the tea on finding balance and promoting positive living while doing it all. Hey friend, welcome back to another episode of Tea with Tanya. Thank you for joining me here in the tea tasting room for yet another week of spilling more tea. I hope you have done something for yourself, something meaningful. I don't care how big or small it is. I hope you've done something for yourself. That could have been drinking more water this week. That could be going for a walk. Whatever it is, you know how we do here in the tea tasting room. Take care of yourself above anything else, okay? So I hope you've done something meaningful for yourself. Me, on the other hand, your girl has been knee deep in, the final stretch of grad school. Like right now, I'm basically in the anchor aspect of things. So I'm like, literally, I'm about to be Usain Bolt. When Johan Blake passed that baton to Usain Bolt, I think it was the 2012 Summer Olympics. Listen, I know I like to talk about sports, but the point is, I'm in the home stretch, and by the time you hear this episode, essentially, I will be in literally the last week of grad school. This episode is on a Tuesday, and the next day I have a final exam, like my final exam ever of grad school. And then on the Thursday, I will have my final presentation of grad school. And let me tell you, my friend, I don't know. I don't know how to feel. Like I've said this before in a previous episode, but I really don't know how to feel. It is surreal. It's emotional. It's also deeply rewarding. And, I don't know. It's just bittersweet. But I will be taking you along with me, along the journey, how I got here, what I learned along the way, and most importantly, why I believe you can start your own journey too, no matter where you are right now. All right? So grab your tea or your drink of choice and let's get into it, okay? We're going to talk about trusting the journey, starting scared, and celebrating every step along the way. Now, my friend, if you came into this tea tasting room, if you would have told me a few years ago that I would be sitting here hosting a podcast, running a nonprofit, working in maternal and reproductive health, and now graduating with my master's of public health, listen, I am not sure I would have believed you, to be honest. Because when I first started this grad school journey, it wasn't necessarily a glamorous decision per se. It wasn't the Instagram perfect, I have it all figured out moment. Because let me be honest with you. When I graduated with my bachelor's in public health from the Georgia State University, shout out to my Panthers. When I graduated, I started my Instagram live, Tea with Tanya live. And, I was doing, speaking engagements. So just having a new guest online every week. But I would have graduated in literally the heart of the pandemic back in 2020. And I didn't know what that journey would look like. Because for me, again, I was still chasing that nursing degree. I wanted to be a midwife. I wanted to be a nurse practitioner. I even applied to go to PA school as well. Like that's how uncertain I was as it relates to what would be my next step. Because for some reason, I still wanted to be a nurse practitioner. But of course, if you've been around here in the podcast, you would know why I'm not even a nurse or in nursing school. If you're new here, I would have failed out of nursing school many years ago by 0.5 points. And that essentially allowed me or made me pivot to where I am now as it relates to not only having a degree in public health, but also about to graduate with my master's in public health, but just working in public health altogether from the women's health aspect of things. But to be honest, I met different people on social media. Like I often say, social media is the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I've been fortunate enough to meet a lot of my peers in public health. And they were on Instagram. They either were undergrads where they graduated or they were, getting their MPH and these different things. And for me, I often know that I wanted to be something important as far as what is going to be a nurse, a doctor, a physician assistant. I wanted to work in healthcare no matter what. And I always had the ambition. But sometimes, again, when you feel it and you get to a particular point in your life, you're like, you know what, you're getting too old. What are you going to do? So it wasn't necessarily always like a glamorous decision. Like I knew I wanted to do it in the back of my mind. But at the same time, there was still some doubt. It was more like I felt called to do more. I know there's more impact I can make outside of the clinical setting. And even though at the time I was a bit scared, I'm willing to try. So it was more like I feel called to do more. I know there's more impact I can make. And even though I'm scared, I'm willing to try. That's literally how my brain processed this whole situation as it relates to going to grad school. And to be honest, my friend, that's what got me here talking to you now in this present week of grad school. Not perfection, not certainty, just a willingness to say yes to the next step or to the next right step. And that's not always easy, but you definitely have to listen to your mind, listen to your heart, and see if that's something that you truly want. And for me, that's what it was. I wasn't chasing perfection. There was a point in time where I was, but I just wanted to say yes to the right step, the next right step. And to be honest, I think I made it was a wise choice for me to even attend or even apply to the University of South Carolina. I will say again, I never said this before. Before I applied to my MPH program, at one point in time, I actually applied to the nursing program because they had like a MSN entry program where if you had a bachelor's degree, it doesn't matter what it was in, once you have your classes up to date as it relates to your science subject, your anatomy, physiology, microbiology. Once you had all of that, you'll be able to go in, get your master's of science in nursing. But of course, you would have taken the core classes like someone would take in their BSN program, bachelor's of science in nursing. And I did that, and they had me on the wait list. I'm like, okay, you know what? Maybe I'm doing something slightly right because I'm on the wait list. You know what? I know the pool can be a bit tough. But again, it was that willingness to make the right step because I know in the back of my mind that I no longer wanted to be a nurse because I know I can make impact outside of the clinical setting. So what I did was, I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do. Let's pivot again. And I started at the University of South Carolina in the maternal and child health certificate program. So before I even got to my MPH, I said, you know what, let's see, I've been out of school because I started in 2023, I think it was. So at this point, I would have been almost 3 years out of school, out of my bachelor's of science, undergrad, right? In the workforce, trying to figure out what is life going to be like. I would have lost my job back in November of 2021, I think it is. And then I got this job where I'm at now here in South Carolina in February of 2022. But I decided my plan was, okay, I want to take the next right step. I work in maternal health, and so be it. The University of South Carolina, the Arnold School of Public Health, they had a maternal and child health certificate program. I said, okay, let me get into this because, this is a passion of mine. So let me get my foot wet, essentially, and let me apply to this program. I did. I had all the interviews with the heads of department. Like that was my first interview ever as it related to anything school-wise. And I remember one of the person who was interviewing me, coincidentally, they were over the data management as it relates to the job that I have, my day job, right? And I remember her asking me, how are you going to balance, your school and you have a nonprofit and you're working full-time and how are you going to manage this? And I just remember saying to her, I said, you know what, let me tell you this. And this may not be exactly word for word, but you'll get the theme of it. I said, when it comes to my schoolwork, I don't play. Like I don't play. I could have the world on my shoulders. When it comes to my schoolwork, I do not play. Nothing comes before me and my schoolwork. And that's the mindset that I had then. And it's still the mindset that I have now. So, I was able to reassure her. She was like, yeah, I understand, but X, Y, Z. I said, no, at the end of the day, again, I know what I am set out to do. So nothing is going to come in between me and my schoolwork. And after that interview, got accepted, got offered a scholarship and everything. And that was my first step, per se, back in academia as it relates to that, but also at the master's level. And, I did a semester of, one semester, I took one class. They're like, you know what, we want you to ease your way into the school so that you can be successful. So let's start with one class. And I did that. And I think the first class was something to do with rural health. But nevertheless, so after I did that, I did the first semester, I was like, okay, I got the hang of it now. My writing is up there. It's, it's doing its thing. I'm making all new friends and everything. And I say, you know what? Why not go ahead and apply for a master's in public health? And I did. And I got into the program. My concentration is health services policy management. And I just never looked back. Like I just never turned back after getting that acceptance letter into the MPH program. So I'm doing a maternal and child health certificate along with the MPH program, Masters in Public Health as well. And I will say the University of South Carolina has been such a pivotal part of my story. It wasn't just about getting a degree. It was about building community, gaining clarity, and growing as a leader, as a leader, a public health professional, and of course, as a woman as well, as a Black woman living in America. The professors, the opportunities, the challenges, they all stretched me. Stretched me thin, honey, okay? They pushed me out of my comfort zone, and it also helped me to step fully into my purpose. And I cannot speak highly enough of this institution. Like when I think about it, I get emotional because one, I didn't know what to expect, but the first time, like that community, it just really and truly just felt like home. I was able to deepen my focus on maternal and child health with a certificate program. And then I was able to apply by learning directly through Scrub Life Cares and my work in the community as well. I met mentors who saw me, not just for what I could produce, but for the vision I carried for the world. Like I have a mentor that I really hope that we're able to connect even outside of school. And I think we will because we have, you know what I mean? But she has a wealth of knowledge. I got to give her a shout out, Dr. Deborah Billings. She is just amazing. And when they paired me with her so she can be my mentor, I remember one of the program directors was like, you know what? She intentionally placed me under, Dr. Billings because, again, she knew my passion for maternal health, reproductive health. And Dr. Billings is a stalwart. Like she is a genius, a powerhouse when it comes to maternal and child health. So again, I was able to just have a mentor essentially that just saw me for me. The community within the program at the Arnold School of Public Health, it's just, I don't know. It makes me speechless because I just cannot believe that a college campus can be this supportive. And mind you, I've had that in my undergrad as well. So I have honestly been fortunate to attend 2 institutions that really cared about me. You know what I mean? But the thing that I love about the University of South Carolina, it's really and truly transformed me into who I am right now, into me talking to you here in the tea tasting room. It's not just about finishing, it's just really about becoming. And that's exactly what happened for me, right? Grad school didn't just give me a degree, or it's about to give me a degree. It gave me evidence that I can start something hard and finish stronger than I imagined. I'm going to say this again, my friend, because I feel it in my chest, okay? Grad school didn't just give me a degree. It gave me the evidence that I can start something hard and finish stronger than I imagined. And let me tell you, the community, the camaraderie, like my classmates, whether we are online or in person, the relationships that I've been able to develop, the belief that my school essentially having me for giving me opportunities, whether it's speaking opportunities, an opportunity to showcase my nonprofit or even my podcast, because I've had the podcast shared in classes on Blackboard because teachers, professors essentially believed in me and what I was doing. One, because I was showing up consistently as well here in the tea tasting room. So again, my consistency is not going in vain because again, you're listening and then people are also seeing. But I really, it just brings joy to my heart. And it's why it's so bittersweet knowing that I'm going to be graduating in a week or so because what am I going to do after that? Because most of my life has been grad school, the last 2.5 years or so. You know what I mean? But I will say there are a few lessons that I want to leave with you because they're not just about lessons for grad school. They're honestly lessons for life, if I'm being honest with you, my friend. And that is, start before you're ready. You will never, ever feel 100% ready to take a big leap, but just start anyway. Start anyway. Clarity is going to come through action. I will tell you that. Just start anyway because you're going to get that clarity through your action. And then just remember, and this was a big one for me as well, progress matters more than perfection. There were semesters where I was tired, let me tell you, because again, I'm working full time on my day job. I'm going to class after school. I have a podcast that I'm growing, my nonprofit that is growing. Some of these, there were projects that just honestly stretched me beyond what I thought I could do. And you know what? I didn't need to be perfect. I needed to keep going. Honestly, that's the message that came to me. There were times where I had to put something on the back burner in order for me to really lock in and focus because again, I have to make sure that I'm performing at my day job because, I'm very blessed and fortunate to be able to be in school without it being an issue. Like my MPH program is online, but there is the MCH program. One of each core classes has to be in person. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to be private. I don't want nobody in my business, especially when it comes to my job or whatever. But I'm like, girl, first of all, one, the person who's over the data when it comes to epidemiology, she is part of the program. So how are you going to hide, right? Then two, I was like, I needed to have the permission to essentially be in class for these 3 hours when it's during the workday. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take an extended lunch, or I'm going to have my lunch, and then I'm going to just use my PTO for the 12 to 15 weeks of the semester that I had, because again, I was not expecting that my job would be that flexible to give me the time. But you know what I did? I went directly to my program manager, and before I knew it, she had me in the director's office, and I'm like, listen, I'm coming to you. Why are you sending me somewhere else? You know what I mean? But I'm very fortunate that they have given me the flexibility and the space for me to attend my class during the day. The one class that would be during the workday when that semester came around. The other two has been, outside the workday. But I've just been very blessed to have my day job be understanding and flexible to allow me to go to my one in-person class throughout the 2 years that I've been in grad school. You know what I mean? So I really have to just give them that credit, because again, not many would do that. I've had them question me, why are you taking 4 classes? That's too much. Because I have a goal, ma'am. Don't, nothing is too much for me. I have a goal when it comes to my education. Nothing is too much. But I also understood their concern, but nah, I don't need it. I'm good. You know what I mean? So definitely, progress matters more than perfection. And I just kept going. One of the biggest lessons that I'm taking with me even more is community is everything. Whether it was classmates, professors, mentors, or even friends, I leaned on community. Growth happens in relationships, not isolation. And I've had to learn that the hard way, especially on this grad school journey. Sometimes you may end up losing relationships because, again, not intentionally. For me, I think some relationships have not been the same because I've just been really locked in, especially this last year as it relates to grad school, because I have my eye on a prize. I have a goal that I'm trying to achieve, and I can't afford anybody. Nobody gonna stop this journey. Yeah, you check? Nobody's gonna stop that journey. So I definitely, had to lean on community, and the community itself within the Honor School of Public Health at the University of South Carolina. When I say amazing, the support and the belief in me as a student is why it's so hard for me to even think about walking across that stage and graduating and no longer be a student there. But of course, I'll be involved in some other way, shape, or form. But definitely, community is everything. And you definitely want to celebrate your milestones, my friend. I had to learn this lesson the hard way too, because I'm so used to going. Oh, what's next? And it's like, no, you can't do that. Every paper, every presentation, every tough day you get through, celebrate it, because every small win is evidence that you are building something bigger. And that is really true. Take it from me, okay? And one of the biggest lessons, my friend, that I had to learn was your path is yours. And why I think I learned this lesson as well, because it took me back to when I failed out of nursing school, and then I saw all my other peers, succeeding, and they went on to nursing school, and some of them are even NPs now, and they're working in that field, and they're doing what they have to do. They're making an impact in that way. And I was like, wow, that could have really been me. I've been blessed enough to turn my stumbling blocks into stepping stones, but there was a point in time when I would compare myself. Like, comparison will try to creep in, especially in grad school too, or when you're building anything new. So I had to realize, you know what? My journey, my path is my path. We're not going to have the same path. You listening, my friend, you and I, we may cross each other's path, but we're not going to ever walk that same path, essentially, because your path is yours and my path is mine. So, when comparison try to creep in, especially when you're starting something new or you're building something new, stay rooted in your why. Why? Because your journey is valid, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. So stay rooted in your why. And there's been times, because let me tell you, your friend, honey, I doubt myself, I cry, or I start second guessing, or, me and my therapist, we're working through so many different things, because again, sometimes that comparison can creep in. But I'm at a space now where I'm like, you know what, girl? You are where you're supposed to be, and you're doing what you're supposed to do. This is not just that every day I have that same mentality, but at some point in time, I go back to it, because again, I have to stay rooted in my why. So every time I may venture off and I feel comparison creeping in, I was like, nope, that's not why we're here. This is why we're doing something, because what? My journey, your journey is valid, even if it doesn't look like anyone else's. All right? Well, my friend, I'm not going to keep it here too long, because like I say, a girl got to make sure everything is set for this week as it relates to the semester. But if there's one thing I hope you take away from today's episode, is this: you are allowed to start right now with what you have, even if you're scared, even if you don't know exactly how it's going to unfold. Maybe for you, it's a grad school. It could be starting a nonprofit. It could be maybe launching that business, maybe it's applying for the job you feel unqualified for. Whatever it is, trust that nudge. So just trust the nudge, okay? Honor the call and know that the journey itself will shape you in ways you can't even imagine yet. And when you look back years from now, my friend, you will realize you were building something beautiful the whole time. And that's how I feel. And that's what I want you to take away from this episode. So, you're going to start before you're ready. Remember that progress matters more than perfection. Community is everything. Celebrate your milestones. And remember that your path is your path. And one thing I want you to take away, you are allowed to start. Remember that again. Right now, with what you have, even if you're scared, even if you don't know exactly how it's going to unfold, just start, my friend. That's all. Just start. Just start. That's it. And that's all I got for you today in the tea tasting room. Thank you for letting me share a little piece of my heart today. I am still soaking in the moment. I'm still reflecting on all the steps that led me here. And again, it's bittersweet, but I am grateful, and if you've been waiting for a sign to start your own journey, whatever it is, well, friend, this is it. Okay? Because celebrate where you are, trust where you're going, and never underestimate the power of small beginnings. That's all I got. Let's think about it. What's the dream you're ready to start moving toward? Let me know. Send me a DM, send me a message, let me know. Because again, I'm going to be always rooting for you always. So what's the dream you're ready to start moving towards? Let me know. Thank you for joining me for another episode of Tea with Tanya. If you like this episode, be sure to share it with a friend. Don't forget to follow on Instagram at Tea with Tanya Podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the weekly Tea Talk newsletter. And of course, rate on Apple or Spotify and subscribe wherever you listen. See you next time. I love you for listening.